I wish I was like Flame Emperor. 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 I envy him. If this world was a novel, then surely a person like him would be the main character, and I would just be an extra. These are excerpts from Kim Gong-ja in the first chapter of SSS-Class Revival Hunter. A protagonist brimming with jealousy and self-loathing. A miserable character. On the surface, he looks like your typical protagonist of another power fantasy slop. Someone cynical and edgy who gets an overpowered skill and just begins to 1-0 everyone. A weak but now I'm overpowered kind of story. And the generic title doesn't help at all. But
stay with me now.
This isn't your typical slop. More than becoming cooler or stronger, this is a story about becoming better as a person. Quick spoiler warning for those of you who haven't seen SSS-Class Revival Hunter. My essay will cover details from chapters 1 to 80 of the manhwa reaching the Miriam arc. A brief recap. For those of you who haven't come across this gem, let me give you a basic premise of the story. A tower emerges on Earth. Within it are floors with each being a world of its own. It has its own rules, quests, timelines, and civilizations. Hunters begin to emerge, which are people who are granted skills to climb the tower. The skills these hunters gain vary from having fire resistance or swordsmanship all the way to being able to summon the undead or teleport. Moving on to our protagonist, Kim Gong-ja is a bottom-rank hunter with no skill whatsoever, living in self-loathe and envy towards the successful hunters. In contrast to his situation is that of the Flame Emperors, the top 1 hunter clearing floors by himself. The Flame Emperor can be as trash as he is, but everyone still favors him. Kim Gong-ja bears immense jealousy towards him, so much so that the tower rewards him with an S-rank skill to reflect this. I want to be like you. A skill that allows him to randomly copy a skill from anyone who kills him. And if you're part of the informed minority,
when you get killed, you die.
Luckily for him, the Flame Emperor, who is also a psychopathic serial killer, turns him into a statistic. Then, lo and behold, the reason the Flame Emperor has become who he is because he has a skill that turns him back 24 hours whenever he gets killed. Copying the skill, Gong-ja returns 24 hours prior, and being the only one in the know of the Flame Emperor's dark side, he takes it as his duty to kill him. This leads to one of the most brutal decisions in the series, which also lends it its title. Gong-ja was to kill the Flame Emperor, and to kill him, he had to go back to a time where the Flame Emperor hadn't awakened.
Stay with us now.
Gong-ja proceeds to live, laugh, love 4,090 times to regress 11 years to kill the Flame Emperor, which he does succeed. Now equipped with an overpowered ability and a boosted ego, Gong-ja now has unlimited potential with what he may do. Attention, fame, power, and gold are all at his fingertips to take. Typically, a power leveling slump ensues from here, where all worldly pleasures come to the main character in quick succession. But instead, what we get is something much deeper, much richer, and much more human. In this essay, I'll break down how SSS-Class Revival Hunter uses suffering to shape how Kim Gong-ja begins to interact with the world, and how this manhwa delivers one of the most unexpectedly profound character studies in current works of the same genre. witnessing suffering. At the 10th floor is where a major change in Gong-ja begins to emerge. At this point, Gong-ja is now accompanied by a mentor, the Sword Emperor, whom he got after being killed by the Sword Saint. You see, the Sword Saint saw him as a legendary assassin after one of his skills translated Gong-ja's live, laugh, love moments into a massive KDA score. Essentially, Gong-ja looked like someone with over 4,000 kills. At this point, Gong-ja has also gained a level up after some training and monster hunting, which made it so that his regression skill had a penalty: to view the trauma of that which kills him. In this timeline, the 10th floor boss hasn't been conquered by any hunter, including the major guilds. Bragging his way in, he enters a burning mansion where he is invited to play a game of hide-and-seek with dolls. In Gong-ja fashion, he fails his first try and gets the opportunity to pick one of the boss's skills: a gold card capable of creating a hellfire of massive destruction and a fire resistance. Much to the dismay of the Sword Emperor, Gong-ja picks the fire resistance, feeling something off with the hellfire. What follows is the first penalty, where Gong-ja gets to witness the trauma of the 10th floor boss. In the flashback, we see a child begging for food, shoved away by the people around, until a nobleman offers the child warmth and kindness, offering him shelter, food, treatment, and the company of other children. However, the child was strict. Gong-ja is forced to watch the pleas of the children who only wanted to play, to have food, shelter, and love. Instead, they were slowly sacrificed in turns. One night, a flame starts and begins to spread throughout the mansion. The nobleman makes his way out along with his servants, who he orders to take jewels as they run. But the children were just left to burn to death. Gong-ja screamed, but he was only a viewer, forced to watch the events unfold. Returning to the present, Gong-ja is left to come to terms with what he has witnessed. He also begins to realize a detail that felt off earlier. The dolls on the 10th floor could have trapped the hunters and burned them to death, but the guilds always got out without casualty. This was not because the boss was weak, but because the children only wanted people to play with. Equipped with fire resistance, the Sword Emperor advises him to dismiss the trauma, as it has already happened, and instead just take advantage of the skill. Rush in and kill the caster. An efficient route. The logical route. An act Gong-ja knew the Flame Emperor also did. But Gong-ja refused to do the same. Instead, he invites all the dolls to come play with him. One by one, Gong-ja finds them. An act of compassion that will change nothing, that does nothing for his image, that no one will ever know nor appreciate. No fame, no reward, no recognition. Simply an act of kindness. This is where Gong-ja truly begins to differentiate himself from the Flame Emperor. Both have seen the same images of horror, but Gong-ja refuses to walk the same path as the Flame Emperor did. In witnessing suffering, the differences in their response begin to define the path Gong-ja takes. Fulfillment in helping others. After clearing the never-before conquered floor 10, Gong-ja was confronted by the top-ranking hunters. And while I'm skipping details here, basically Gong-ja is recognized as someone at the same level of the top-ranking hunters, and through a bet, becomes an honorary member in all the top guilds. In finishing their discussion, Gong-ja announces that for floors 11 to 20, the theme will be roleplay. In this arc, Gong-ja's priorities evidently begin to shift. At the start of his climb, he dwells on his love for attention, and quite openly at that. But as it goes on, Gong-ja begins to let go of the idea of cheap fame, and instead prioritizes recognition from those whom he really acknowledge and look up to. As we start at the 11th floor, Gong-ja garners the attention by monopolizing information and item rewards from the previous floor. But as he climbs to the 12th floor, he is greeted by the Demon King of Autumn Rain. Thousands of soldiers die without being able to fight, along with the top-ranking hunters by his side. He regresses, waking up from the trauma. He begins to think anew. Gong-ja begins to let go of attention and monopoly of information. Rewarding him is a sight of Black Dragon's smile, which, as the number of casualties dwindle, the more Black Dragon became more expressive, a reward that took him by surprise. As he and the top-ranking hunters protect and save the people around them, he comes into a realization. I want to live a life that is recognized by these people, and I want to protect these people. I also want to change a little bit in this changed world. As Gong-ja proceeds to the 12th floor, he also takes it upon himself to face the Demon King of Fall Rain alone, not for glory or recognition, but to save the lives of the people he knew and didn't know. At this floor, there was an opening quest to assign the top-ranking hunters before the start of the battle. But instead, he requests that the other hunters don't do anything, so that the quest and the world remains paused. And so, for endless days, Gong-ja fights the Demon King in a floor frozen in time. He suffers, dies, regresses, and does it all over again. As he continues to fight, it mattered less the amounts of kills or damage he has done, but the number of deaths he is preventing. Eventually, the Sword Saint and Black Dragon comes and he accepts their help, leading to them defeating the Demon King, who retreats onto the upper floor. As the Demon King leaves the floor, the timeline is altered toward the lives of the people had the Demon King never existed there. In real time, we see Gong-ja find fulfillment in saving others. Sheer joy overwhelms him as he stands on top of the walls announcing that he has saved the lives of the Empire, despite them not knowing it. He admits his life of shame, but at this time he had nothing to be ashamed of, that he can only be happy and proud. To others, to his comrades, to the world, and most importantly, to himself. Gong-ja was proud. Willingness to suffer. As Gong-ja climbs the floors above, his change of character becomes further solidified. In this arc, Gong-ja does not merely react to the suffering of others, but instead proactively chooses to experience it. For floor 21, a librarian presents to the hunters books of ruined plots. Skipping over details, a ruined Miriam world was chosen. Here, the world is stuck in eternal winter, overrun by Jiangxi zombies with only 2 figures remaining: the heavenly demon of the demonic cult and the leader of the Orthodox Miriam Alliance. For 3 years, they have continued their great Orthodox demon war in an already ruined world, operating in bodies already infected, with only their skills and willpower restraining the virus from spreading in their bodies. As Gong-ja and 3 of his teammates enter, the first thought was to make a cure. After all, 2 of his teammates were medicine-oriented hunters. But it's estimated that research for treatment may take 100 all the way to 300 days, with no guarantee, way longer than the days the world has left. Regardless, he tells his fellow hunters to just do their best.
He will handle everything else. On a night of snowstorm, Gong-ja gets to converse with the heavenly demon. Are you afraid? He asks. She answers. She's afraid. For her failing to restrain the virus, for the winter to never end, for the Jiangxi corpses of her people to vanish, for her to never be able to fight the leader of the Orthodox faction, for her to lack the ability to move, for her to die a meaningless death. That fear shortly comes true as the leader of the Orthodox faction collapses. But a war without an enemy has lost its meaning. Deprived of purpose, the heavenly demon goes mad, succumbing to key deviation before killing everyone. Seeing her trauma, Gong-ja realizes that no cure will resolve this world. Their suffering is not rooted in disease, but ultimately in the absence of meaning. In regressing, Gong-ja requests to be a disciple of a heavenly demon. However, he fails. The heavenly demon's martial arts are rooted in suffering, in abandonment by the world of famine, war, and despair. Gong-ja, a man from the modern world, simply does not qualify. To prove his resolve for 112 days, Gong-ja starves himself. In an even more insane display of resolve, Gong-ja proceeds to die at the hands of 112 Jiangxi zombies who have starved to experience their suffering individually. An effort to etch into his soul the very feeling of starvation. Then, from dehydration, drowning, and freezing, again and again to understand every pain. An act that the Sword Emperor watched in disbelief at a resolve bordering on insanity. Empathy taken to its extreme. As he endures the stats, Gong-ja schemes a plan with the Sword Emperor and also instructs his summon to gather the corpses of all the Jiangxi. Just a side note, but Gong-ja at this point has the ability to summon ability-less versions of those that he killed. For example, Petra, which was the previous Demon King for 11 to 20, is now his subordinate. His resolve was eventually acknowledged, and Gong-ja was accepted as a disciple. Shortly after, a cure was finally made, as Gong-ja, on every regression, fed them their previously researched information. But the cure came with a price. They will live, but will never be able to practice martial arts again. Despite the regrets of being unable to finish the war, both agreed. Yet Gong-ja is not finished. He goes to Petra, surrounded by the Jiangxi zombies. One by one, Gong-ja kills them. Gong-ja wanted an ending, worthy of the years they've suffered. Gong-ja invites them out after they've recovered from their surgery, then shows them an impossible sight. The Murim has been restored. With all their followers having returned, the final war awaited. The war begins as both sides fight, though deprived of their abilities. However, at the peak of it all, the heavenly demon asks to duel with the Murim Alliance leader. Both sides agree as they begin to use their very life force to perform martial arts. The heavenly demon wins, but she only has 2 hours left. In her final moments, Gong-ja makes an absurd request. Master, please duel with me. Gong-ja introduces the Sword Emperor and begins to channel his words to the heavenly demon for her last duel through words. For her whole life, she was the strongest of her world. There was none above her. This was her curse. But now, for the first and final time, she's allowed to fight someone stronger. Someone she can finally go all out with. As both the Sword Emperor and Heavenly Demon are fighting, Gong-ja bears witness to both their skills and philosophy. While this deviates from the topic slightly, I think it gives quite a significant remark on Gong-ja's relationship with suffering and on the importance of the Sword Emperor as his mentor. The heavenly demon wields her sword as an extension of her hate for the suffering of others. That suffering must be understood, felt, and ultimately repaid. But the Sword Emperor argues that while suffering must be taught, it shouldn't be the sole reason behind every action. Just as there is suffering, there is also happiness. To understand the depths of sadness, one must first experience the heights of happiness. Understanding the suffering of others is essential, but to remain in this state for a lifetime will only burn you out. What makes this exchange so striking is how it reframes Gong-ja's path. Throughout this arc, he took it upon himself to suffer, to understand others. Yet the Sword Emperor suggests that Gong-ja will only burn out this way, that Gong-ja does not need to shoulder the pain of the world alone, much less do so without having experienced happiness. While there is meaning in enduring suffering, there is also meaning in allowing oneself to experience joy and rest. Suffering must not be the only language Gong-ja uses to understand the world. The heavenly demon is ultimately defeated, but with much satisfaction in getting to fight at her best. Now at death's door, she realizes the truth. Gong-ja didn't approach her for her reputation or strength. He simply wanted to help her. As she reaches her final breath, the sky splits. The winter has been cut. You've got the winter, master. A feat she chased her whole life. Initially, I held off from reading this manhwa. It seemed to just be another power fantasy, especially with its generic-looking title, but I was wrong. I've already reread this manhwa at least 5 times, and that's more times than I've read my physics book. What begins as a story of a man brimming with jealousy and self-loathing slowly becomes the story of that who suffers to understand and help others. This story is not only about how a character grew stronger, but how a character grew to be more human. In a genre obsessed with domination and spectacle, SSS-Class Revival Hunter provides a breath of fresh air. It is with this profound development that Gong-ja became one of my most favorite characters, and this manhwa one of my most favorite reads.